Welcome everybody to today's Scrum Pulse. My name is Lindsay Velasina. I am here with Scrum.org. I'm just going to be moderating our session today. And then we have Stefan Wolpers here, one of our professional Scrum trainers from Germany. He is here to walk us through a really cool webinar talking about using AI to help with some team dynamics. So welcome today, Stefan. This should be really, really, really exciting. So next slide, please. All right, so some quick guidelines before we get started. So you'll notice that your microphone is muted. However, we do want you to ask questions, so you can utilize the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions that you may have. I will also open up the chat for any technical questions. And then this session is being recorded, and you will get a copy of this in your inbox within 24 hours. It will also be on the Scrum.org website and our YouTube channel for quick access. So next slide, please. Okay, so very quickly about Scrum.org. We are the home of Scrum. We were founded by Ken Schwaber back in 2009. And our mission is to help people and teams solve complex problems. So we do that through our training, our certification, and ongoing learning. You'll notice on our website, there's a lot of free ways to learn, including things like this webinar. So I hope that today's session plays an important role in your learning journey as well, and this super exciting topic. So next slide, and Stefan, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and kick us off.
Sure, will do. First of all, thanks a lot for having me, Lindsay. It's a great pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to our webinar here because it's an exciting topic that I really enjoy. Some of you may have been reading my stuff on the blog, so I like to write about how we can use generative AI to actually get better as Agile practitioners, right? What else? Some of you may know I wrote a book about Scrum anti-patterns, so these old inversion principle, don't try to be excellent at something, just try to avoid the stupid mistakes that others make, and you are actually on the right track. So if you really think about what might go wrong, the book is for you. And yeah, I've been doing this for quite some time by now, and yeah, I hope I will be beneficial to the community today as well. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a little exercise I created for my AI for Agile Practitioners cohort class. And it's all revolving around a little startup that has some trouble. It's called MegaBrain. And this is one of the exercises from the class. And the scenario is really problematic, so it's a startup, it's venture capital funded, and they're running out of cash. This is really problematic. So they maybe have 3 months of runway left. They recently fired a third of the people working on MegaBrain's product to just extend the runway and have a fighting chance to actually make it to the next funding round. Unfortunately, that one is depending on the next release because that release is desperately anticipated by many people, and most importantly, not just the financiers, but also by the paying clients, right? Now, the issue is that technical debt is accumulating fast. They've been cutting a few corners here and there to actually gather some speed. The problem resulting from the increasing pressure on everyone here is that there are really burnout signals left and right. And you basically have been hired as a last-ditch effort to help the 3 teams that actually create MegaBrain's product to make it to that point where they can say, okay, we can release and we have a fighting chance to actually make it through the next funding round, because otherwise in 3 months from now they're all without a job, and that would be problematic. So what did you do at the beginning when you have no clue what is going on? Well, you talk to people. You run interviews. Typically, these are one-on-one interviews, and On your desk, you have a pile of 10, 12, 15 different interviews of variable length, right? Now, the problem is that in the usual environment, you would now sit down and study all the the transcripts and start drawing your conclusions from them. But this is a moment when time is of the essence, right? And maybe also you cannot afford the luxury of missing things, where you are not capable of interpreting or reading between the lines what people are actually saying, where you miss out on sentiments or something like that. Not to mention that there are other things that you probably will not be touching as well. So the question that you usually face at this moment is, okay, should you skip the thorough analysis of the interview material? You just, yeah, I can remember all the interviews and I know exactly what's going on here. And do you decide just to become another busy Scrum Master? Tweaking everything left and right, helping the people to get better at their stand-ups and maybe run a retrospective or two and trying to figure out, okay, what can I do to support my teams to make it through the release? Of course, that is not something that we would like to do here because it's really about 60 jobs that are on the line and a good product that might go out of the market, right? So classic issue is manually analyzing all of this may take days. You probably don't have. You may have stressful moments where some sort of cognitive overload by all the new information that is coming onto you from all the sides. Everyone wants to talk to you. May prevent you from actually figuring out some of the underlying patterns. And also maybe something like confirmation bias is having an effect on your observations. No matter how hard you try to keep this out of the equation, seriously, if you like someone, you will interpret their interviews better differently than if you are not at a good foot with one of your new colleagues, right? So, what might be the issue here? You might head in the wrong direction. You might come up with a wrong diagnosis, which then would lead you to actually embark on the wrong track of coaching the team, hoping that it will turn out well in the end. Anyway. Now, my pitch to you is that in those situations, at least, you should consider why not use generative AI for that purpose, because generative AI has a lot of advantages if you use it as a tool for the purposes it's really good at. And pattern recognition across a large set of messy data is really one of the fields that generative AI excels at. It can detect emotional undertones, right? It can identify contradictions between different interviews. It, in general, creates evidence-based observations, and it's really good at comprehensive analysis in minutes and not days. So the idea behind actually using generative AI is to augment your coaching abilities, but not replace your judgment. Think of it as you have an assistant who is really good at analyzing the transcripts, right? An intern fresh from college or university. Now, what is generative AI really good at? Number one, of course, pattern extractions. In our cases, what might be common pain points across different roles, right? What might be contradictions between the leadership versus the team reality, because of course you're not interviewing just your team members, you also interview the leadership level, so CEO, CTO, probably the CPO as well. So just to get a better understanding, so from the internal understanding, the internal perspective, and then how the whole team, in our case, we're just talking about one team, not all three of those, how the one team is seen from the outside. So by all means, you're also interested in assumptions that people make that might cause misalignment in the process. You really like to know more about process bottlenecks. What are people mentioning permanently and all the time? So the advantage in our case here really is that generative AI tends to understand the context and not just the keywords. So this is really a difference by comparison to other practices. Emotional intelligence. It may detect something what service miss. So for example, burnout signals and language patterns. Um, we if you run an anonymous survey, for example, and you create answers and answer options, you may not be familiar with how to phrase these things in a correct way so that that the answer options reflect what people would like to say. You know, it's it's the general problem that you have, to create the survey in the best possible way. You actually already have to know how people feel, so it's a bit hen and egg problem here, right? Um, it could identify certainly specific topics that are enthusiastically mentioned. Um, it could identify expressions of uncertainty about priorities. All think about this. There's the leadership on the one side, and then there's the reality at the shop floor, so to speak, on the other side. And by all means, frustration levels across team members should be relatively easily recognizable. So what AI can actually deliver here is human needs on the one side and sort of attached to process issues at the other side, which for us might be a bit more difficult to understand when we're just reading transcripts, right? Contradiction analysis. So what is it? What are leadership expectations and what is the reality at the team level? Team capacity, for example. Now, as you will see, burnout has gone so far that a few people are really considering to change jobs, move somewhere else. They currently started to pick up the phones when headhunters are calling them. And given that Mega Brain is working in a rather hot area, so um, agent-based AI systems for large corporations to optimize workflows, there certainly is demand for these people, right? What might be conflicting priorities, between what the team considers necessary and what the leadership considers necessary, by all means. What are status values versus described behaviors? You may have heard the old joke, culture is what is happening when no one's looking, but this is exactly the point here. So what is stated on the one side, but what is actually practiced in reality? And do we share a success definition, or are those incompatible with each other? Again, leadership, team level, right? These contradictions are really, from a coaching perspective, gold mines, because now you can reach out to two sides and actually help them better understand what is going on here. So what are the real benefits about doing it this way and employing a large language model and helping you analyzing these transcripts? And there are a few things that come to my mind. So first of all, it's reducing your personal cognitive load. I mean, you're new on the job. It's a stressful environment. If things go wrong, you within 3 months you lose an employer or a client anyway. So a lot of things are trying to get your attention. A lot of people trying to get your attention. You have to look out for a lot of things. If you can outsource the initial pattern extraction to an AI, that is really, really helpful. So doing so enables you to actually focus instead on implication and responses. Every interview will be analyzed, not sampled, and analyzed in full. Every detail will be measured. No insight will be left behind. This is a lot to expect from a human. I don't know when you've done this last time, but if you are into reading transcripts for two hours, you start to get a bit less focused. This is not going to happen with a model. Bias reduction, AI certainly challenges assumptions. And more importantly, and this is the good thing, it will surface uncomfortable truths, right? So from that perspective, it is also really, really helpful. Evidence-based coaching power, I like that phrase by all means. So what's the additional benefit from a coaching perspective if you outsource pattern recognition and all the other stuff we just addressed to a large language model? Well, first of all, it enhances your credibility in the new job because you have grounded interventions. It's not just hunches. It's no longer, I believe that. You can actually produce an analysis for that. And you can produce an analysis based on specific examples from team voices. So this is really data backed, so to speak, if you want to put it that way. Also, what you can expect the AI to do is have a broader system understanding. It will probably understand the system better and faster than you can do after being on the job for 2 or 3 days. It will help you to build trust with everyone faster, because you can now acknowledge unspoken challenges. It's like hiring an external consultant. McBoston is making good business not because they are the sole people who understand what problems are there around and how you can solve them, but they're also the people who can, voice this and explain this and make suggestions that probably would be politically unwise, culturally not acceptable within the organization, although they very well know what's on the table anyway, right? It demonstrates that you can deep listen, and even if you use a tool like AI for that purpose. And you can also create more empathy by showing understanding. Rest assured, this is not a shortcut. It will really help you to better understand what is going on. So, how do you go about it? First of all, data gathering, right? We will use a few interview transcripts here. I will show you an example of those. But there are other things too. Retrospective notes, for example, are really, really helpful. Meeting minutes from past events, etc. There will be plenty of those around. Survey responses, maybe there have been some surveys in the past. Maybe you set up a survey and run them. Maybe you ran a survey just prior to joining the organization. And anonymized Slack conversations also help. And the cool thing really is that quantity and messiness are no longer issues. On the contrary, right? What is stressing humans is a cakewalk for generative AI, so don't hold back. What you need to do, of course, is effective prompting, right? Because otherwise, garbage in, garbage out. And I'm not referring to the data that you provide. I'm referring to prompting the model in the correct ways, So, for example, so that's a part of what I use to analyze these team interviews to identify common pain points across different roles. Yes, contradictions and priority descriptions. What's the difference between the leadership understanding and the team understanding? What are emotional indicators of stress and burnout? Stress and burnout, it's not just having a negative effect on the team performance, which is mission critical. Remember, we have 3 months left, because otherwise we're not gonna make it, right? But it's also an indicator whether people might be more interested in assuming a new role in a different organization. And in my experience, it's always the good people who go first, right? Process improvements implied by concerns. Okay, how can we actually improve this whole thing? So my tip would be use the Agile Prompt Engineering Framework. That's something I created a few weeks ago. And if you go to the Scrum.org blog, you will find a blog post about this. Okay, so what we will have now is a live demo. So I will show you how this actually works in Claude. And remember, so we have 9 interviews of one of the teams, MB1. Remember, Series B funding is at risk. They have to deliver this release because otherwise there will be no Series B. The only investor who's interested in that explicitly said no release, no funding. We have technical issues, burnout signals everywhere, and that's really problematic from that perspective. So, of course, I haven't been running interviews, but I've created these interviews as part of the whole workshop design, So Mega Brain is a fictitious startup. It's not rooted in reality. And I synthesized interviews, It took a while, but in the end was really good. And as you can see, it's a classic interview here. Right, we have a scene, what is happening when, who's talking to whom. Here we have Tomasz. Tomasz is a senior backend developer, and he is essential to the whole effort, And so from that perspective, we actually have a lot of data that we can use. And now we're going to switch. Okay, so down here in the left lower left corner, you see the prompt, and here we actually have the file with the documents, and let's see what's going to happen now. So Claude is thinking, gathering my thoughts. That is very kind of you. Typically, it takes about a minute or so, so I will try to bridge that one. Still working, stand by, excellent. Thinking. 10 seconds. Okay, almost made it. Okay, analyzing the interview data. This is good. Very long seconds at the moment, I think. Lindsay, how many questions do we have?
We have a few. Do we want to take some?
No, just
Okay.
Okay, by the way, of course I have a backup tab here on just in case that Claude is for whatever reason refusing to do this.
Yeah,
No.
someone actually asked, so did you just upload the files to cloud?
I uploaded, yes.
Okay.
Detecting talent flight, risk and systemic team breakdown. Okay, so last time it took 22 seconds. Don't ask me why we're now spending so much time. We switch back in a second. Maybe there's a bit of bit too much. As you can see, it's the very same prompt as well as the interview. So let's take this one. Okay, so team crisis analysis, survival, focus, coaching, assessment, executive summary, can deliver. This is the release we're talking about. And now critical success was the leadership alignment enforcement, cross-team communication protocols, and talent retention through psychological safety restoration. This sounds all very fancy. Here we are. Okay, good. It's still working. Okay, let's stay here. So it identified different patterns. So in starting with systemic patterns, so communication breakdown, there seem to be cross-team coordination failures. So while we are just talking to one of the teams, there are 3 teams that are responsible for actually making or bringing Mega Brain into life and make this work, right? And as you can see here, By the way, the prompt instructed the model to actually, when citing, to always refer to where they found this whole thing, which is helpful because we don't want to have any hallucinations here. So every communication failure creates downstream work, delaying tests, erosion of trust between teams. Scope creep endemic, So the issue is that somehow the scope gets larger and larger. Despite everyone knows, okay, we have to release the next version. Everyone is waiting for this. Without release, no more money. There seem to be discussions about what release actually comprises. And somehow new ideas sneak in left and right. Eleanor dumps mid-sprint change requests. Eleanor is the CEO of Mega Brain, right? And Marco slips in just one more tweak. Marco is the chief product officer of the whole company, right? So that certainly is an issue. Flight risk pattern. It's from the risk level, it's company ending. This is really critical here, right? So Evo's reactivating his LinkedIn. I've been taking a few recruiter calls. This is really problematic. Some of the senior devs ghosting Slack. This is all not a good idea. So, contradiction mapping, leadership reality disconnect, CEO versus product leadership. There seems to be different understanding of what is actually relevant right now, right? Elena says we can't afford long retrospectives or ideal agile rituals. Get stuff done. What that probably is an issue, right? If you're struggling and if you're on the brink of survival, maybe retrospectives are actually a good idea from time to time, right? Process authority contradiction. So while they may be playing, hey, your team have agency and you're self-managing, reality seems to be different. Elena Marco asked for something, it's not a suggestion, it's an expectation. So that is probably a critical issue too. We either freeze scope or we prepare to pivot the whole company. Probably they go out of business before. Emotional intelligence analysis, burnout. I stopped logging weekend hours because why bother? So much to do, right? I'm a bit fried. I've been considering taking a few days off, but it feels like if I blink, we will miss the 3-0 deadline, So people have the urge to stay on board, not to leave their colleagues, right? I'm scared to ask too many questions sometimes. Not a good idea, right? The team itself, despite everything, they still care, still show up, but that's not infinite. So we're still holding together, but probably there is an issue sooner or later. Right? Psychological safety collapse. Evidence across multiple roles showed fear-based decision-making rather than collaborative problem solving. Survival assessment. Feasibility of release 3.0, marginal. Doesn't look good, right? Critical blockers, max fix immediately. Cross-team change communication. So the communication between the three teams desperately needs to get better because otherwise this is the road to disaster. Scope freeze enforcement. Stop talking about the scope freeze, act on it, right? And this particularly points to the CPO and CEO, right? QA integration. The QA chap on Team MB1 is basically excluded from critical things, and no one knows exactly why. Talent flight risk imminent. You need to talk to Evo and Mira, right? They're practically already gone. And you need to invest a bit of time here to help them stay with Mega Brain, right? Technical debt impact, yeah, I think we had that. Okay, so survival-focused interventions. Immediate crisis response, next sprint. As you can see, the model, okay, I asked for it, but also makes suggestions, okay, what to do, right? Daily 15 cross-team dependency check between MB1 and MB2. You might have seen that before, right? delivery enablement, restore QA integration, shield team from leadership chaos. I mean, seriously, there is there is a bit going on at the leadership level. My God, if your baby goes out of business or is on the verge of going out of business 3 months down the road, if the folks in the engineering department do not deliver, yes, rest assured, these people are on the edge too, right? And this is not really helpful as far as communication is concerned. So help the team to be shielded from that. Yeah? Typically, you would say, "Hey, come on, we're all grown-ups. My job as a Scrum Master is not to shield the team from whatever communication comes in." But in this situation, maybe that is the reason to have an exclusion from that thing. You know, weekly have a weekly alignment check with the CTO, right? So, coaching priority ranking. You know, okay, what are we supposed to do? Right? Success probability is 65% if all interventions implemented within one sprint. Failure probability increases 20% for each week of the delay. Don't ask me where they get these percentage numbers from, but it's probably a good idea. And okay, that's something from my personal customization of my large language model. I always ask it or always instruct it to ask 3 questions beyond the usual scope of my previous task, just to get going. And let's have a look. Where are we? Scope creep. Now this is the brand new one. Cross-team communication. Here it is called talent hemorrhaging. Yeah, different wordings as expected. Emotional intelligence analysis, but as you can see, it's guided by the prompt. We're moving in the right direction. Okay, I provided again all these things. You know what I'm supposed to do, but I provided a few follow-up questions. I don't know how long it will take. Maybe come back later. Yeah, good. Does not really look that good. So I would say here we are. Mira. Okay, you need to talk to your front-end developer in team 1, right? This is really critical, right? And it's not most urgent. Classic burnout paralysis. She knows she needs to rest, but feels trapped by consequences. It's a trap, reveals desperation and helplessness. She's also the only front-end developer. Losing her skills kills 3G delivery immediately. I'm just, senior talent in active flight mode, EVO. Right. This is psychological safety collapse. Elena, the junior developer, I'm scared to ask too many questions sometimes. This is not something that should happen. And finally, I'm really looking forward to that one. Exhausted cynicism by Tomasz. Right. The moment people get cynic or sarcastic, basically, it's very difficult to get them back from the brink. Right. Leadership anxiety, is worried but professional. He's observing patterns, expressing personal distress. Intervention priorities, yada, yada, yada. Again, please make a few suggestions what to tackle first. It's not that this is the exact schedule how you should organize your work, but it's a good suggestion, it's a good starting point, and most importantly, it is rooted in the data and the analysis of the data. Okay, so I have another one. I don't know how long this will take. Typically it takes a bit longer, so I would say let's go back to the slides and wrap this up and then come back at the end and see where we... it's already drawing again. Just a second. Okay, Lindsay, can you see?
Yes, we see the PowerPoint.
Excellent. Okay, so what have you just witnessed, more or less? So we have there are really cross-role pattern contradictions, right? So there's a different understanding between the leadership level, inside the leadership level, and then the team reality. And it was nicely analyzed by the model. Hidden emotional burnout signals. Remember, you have to talk to Mira, because this is really heading in the wrong direction. This is really critical. There are systemic communication breakdowns. Communication between teams is really not working. There are issues here that are critical for the next release, and you gotta fix it, right? And but also at the same time, we came up with a list of intervention opportunities, and they're already prioritized and structured, and there are suggestions available. It's not that we start from scratch here, right? So traditional analysis would have taken us hours, and instead, as you can see, it took a few minutes to actually get this thing right. Okay, if you create the prompt and you do a decent job on creating the prompt, it in total takes you maybe half an hour, at max. There is no more time that you actually need to invest. So implementation step 3, evidence-based analysis. So what else is important with prompting? I haven't shown you the complete prompt because there's not really that much time for that purpose. But what you should always request the model to do, if you put an emphasis that your analysis is evidence-based, that it has to provide quotes supporting observations. That pattern examples need to be available across multiple interviews. Just because one interviewee is mentioning something, it doesn't constitute a pattern, right? Contradictory evidence to challenge the findings is also appreciated, and please provide source references for verification. There was this found in interview number 1, right? I should prove these insights, not just assert them. If you leave these kinds of requests out, you basically end up with some things that the model just makes up. So Claude, for example, is great in inventing quotes, that sound reasonable, and but never trust them. Okay, so iterative refinement. What you should do at the end of this session, or basically what you should do to continue the session with your model, is always ask follow-up questions. What did person A mean when they said X? How does this finding connect to the retrospective findings? What intervention opportunities do you see? Or as you have seen here, what is most pressing that we should actually address, given the emotional tone. Conversation with the model actually helps the understanding of the whole thing, and it's strongly recommended. And by the way, always consider that that the model is following your prompt. If your prompt has room for improvement, let me put it this way, you will never find out if you not continue asking questions afterwards. So, synthesis. Your role remains central. The point is not that the AI is replacing you. On the contrary, the AI provides the input, but you make the decisions. You need to verify critical insights from the analysis, from the AI-based analysis, through direct conversation with the people involved. Reach out to Mira, reach out to Thomas, and talk to them. That's really mission critical here. Plan interventions based on augmented understanding. That includes that you actually talk to the people before, and then you mix both together. And the analysis competence of the model should not lead to a moment where you said, well, maybe human connection and empathy are not longer that relevant because I have a machine that does everything for me. So this would be the complete wrong approach. AI amplifies your expertise but does not replace it. it's helping you understand the context, the situation, but it is your job to make the best out of it. Ethical considerations. There are a few things that are non-negotiable. So explicitly ask for consent to use the data from the interviews, for example, right? If you're in a coaching environment, you cannot just use the information that you have on a one-on-one basis and share that with a model. This is not how it works. You do this in advance, and you explain to all participants why you consider this to be a good thing. Maybe you have some examples from the past where it was already helpful, and given the situation, probably people are willing to accept to do this, right? Particularly if you share the findings later on with them. Also, ensure that what you do is in compliance with your organizational standards. And the larger the organization, the more complicated compliance gets or tends to get, particularly in the realm of, okay, we have personal data here that we are sharing with an external model. Probably you're not hosting it yourself. And that is an issue, right? Respect privacy protection, and when applicable, anonymize the data that you have, and have a completely transparent process with your team members. That is, by all means, really, really helpful. Please recall, trust is your most valuable asset, right? In our situation, you're new to the team, you basically have to build trust anyway first. But imagine you think about applying this in an existing context where you have been working for a while, where people trust you. Remember the old saying, takes weeks, months, sometimes years to build trust, but only seconds to destroy it. And this is a classic case for it. Critical limitations. It's a cool technology, however, it's got certainly blind spots. Cultural nuances and context are sometimes hard for models to detect. Particularly in environments where people from very different backgrounds work together. This is something that is of a critical nature, or can be of a critical nature, right? So working in Berlin in startups, what I did for a long time, it was not uncommon in larger ones that you were working with people from 40, 50 different countries together, right? And rest assured, they were from all over the globe, basically, South America, North America, Africa, Asia, Europe, you name it, right? And there are differences, I can tell you. Technical terminology can be an issue, as well as group-specific terminology. If you have group-specific talk, it's critical, and the model will not understand this. There might be subtle interpersonal dynamics the model is not aware of, because it has a huge library of psychology behind it, but certainly not the psychology of communication between Tomasz and Mira. It's lacking completely on that. And nonverbal communication clues, of course, are typically not included, except that you basically videotape everything, and then you use the videotapes for that purpose. So critical point, always verify insight through human interaction. Okay, customer discovery bonus, real world application example. So what we just explored with analyzing the messy data that you can have in team situations. Of course, you can apply this to other areas too. For example, customer product discovery. It works in the very same way, right? So works with customer interviews, the videos, for example. Product discovery certainly gets accelerated. I mean, recall the times when you had 12 hours of recorded customer interviews and you thought about, oh my goodness, no. Now you have to sift through and figure out what it was all about, try to understand pattern. Completely different game nowadays. right? Because user needs patterns emerge significantly faster. So, and as a result, you can actually come up with some evidence-based product decisions which make life so much easier. And it is the same skill, just applied in a different area. Transformation promise, from information overwhelm to clarity. So why I consider this to be really a good thing. Faster team understanding. You simply get faster up to speed by identifying critical patterns, etc. pp. It's evidence-based, and you can base your interventions on this evidence. This comes with a benefit of the doubt. So it's significantly easier to communicate these kind of interventions than if you're telling, yeah, after 2 days, my gut tells me that, many people will just roll eyes, right? Reduce coaching guesswork, no, it's no longer gut-based. Basically, you can actually do something more meaningful, and it certainly enhances credibility to stakeholders. And the cool thing is that your coaching time is actually spent where it matters most. And in our little explanation here, in our little situation here, it's actually the critical issue that we have, right? So next steps, choose your AI model, create prompt templates, start with retrospective notes analysis, and build your evidence-based coaching muscle. Don't forget to ask for consent, that's critical, but start small and scale systematically. And if you want more about this, reach out to me, connect on LinkedIn, or send me an email. You can Google me so that you will find my address or my profile on Scrum.org, and then we are basically good to go here. So, okay, let me.
Okay.
Gee, 49 minutes.
Yes. So yes, time flew. So we do have some questions here, Stefan.
Sure.
A number of people are asking what the prompts that you used in the example were.
Yeah, I can share the prompts. That's no issue. Can I send you the prompt, Lindsay, and you distribute it to the participants?
Sure. Yes.
Excellent. Good. Let's do it this way.
Okay.
That will be the easiest way.
Okay, we will do that.
hmm.
Yep, I will include it in the email about the recording.
And if I can still find it, I can also share the Claude chat that I used to create the prompt itself. So I have a
Okay.
better understanding how to get to the prompt.
Sounds good. Another question here. What were the exact tools giving you the information? Did the model come out of the box? Did you
Yes.
parameterize or train yourself at all?
No.
Is it
This is
actively your context?
This is actually only the context. So keep it as simple as possible for the purpose of the webinar here. It's just my standard Claude. It's a pro version, as you might have seen. So I paid $20 a month for this thing, and I think it's a very good investment. And it's really the context and the form of A, the prompt, and to B, the interviews. There's nothing else. No extensions, no nothing. That's it.
Okay. And then there are a few more questions about the files that you uploaded. So those files, did you upload a summary of notes from interviews or video recordings and then Claude just scrubbed through that? What exactly did
Yes.
you upload?
Yeah. Let me share. I can. No. Where is it? Ah, yeah. Sorry. Okay, you should see a Word document.
Yes.
Okay, so it's fictitious interviews. I synthesized all the information that you see here for an exercise. Basically, this is an exercise, so my students are tasked with, okay, analyze the situation of the team and come up with suggestions how to help the team reach release 3. And this is part of the information that they get, And I created these interviews. based on prompting and providing the background information on MegaBrain. So MegaBrain is a small universe by now. So it has a description of the scenario they're in, but we also have a product strategy. We have some additional documents on culture, etc. pp. So in all of these documents, basically you can put together, put them into a project, and then designing these interviews based on the context information in that project, and it was quite good. I can tell you. So decent performance, useful things. And by the way, what I always suggest is it, don't rely on a single model, run the same on a different model, on a competing model. So I created a similar project at in Gemini, provided the same context, run the same prompt, and I got a different set of interviews, of course, right? But it's interesting to just see, for example, the Gemini interviews were significantly media, let me put it this way. So there was more information in it, you know. But on the other side, I really appreciate that you can train. Oh, okay, so our CTO is really busy. She does not have a lot of time by comparison to other people. You know, all the C-level folks have little time. On the contrary, you can say, so Tomasz has significantly more time. And if you follow these are real conversations that could really happen that way, you know. So it's amazing to see what you actually can do with this kind of technology if you invest a bit of time.
Thank you. All right, we only have a couple more minutes here. Someone asked you to talk a little bit more about prompt engineering. Do you have any tips there for folks?
I would. I think I published something on the prompt engineering framework I created. Let me check the Scrum.org blog.
Yeah, I feel like there's a blog somewhere on this.
There is a blog somewhere. Yes, absolutely. There's the
Okay.
old blog URLs.
Okay. We will get that blog to folks to
Sure.
help answer that
We
question.
will.
Are there any retrospective tools out there that can be used to raise uncomfortable truths for the team?
There quite some retrospective tools out there that involve a co-pilot by now. But I still believe that if you go with one of the large frontier models, so ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, if you're willing to pay for the pro version, so your $20 a month, you're basically set up for a good environment. And think about how many information or what level of information is freely available on the internet. So you can create your own little retrospective GPT, for example, with relatively little extra investment of time. And then you're basically set up in a better way, I believe, than just relying on yet another subscription to yet another retrospective tool. You know, so I'm more interested in these kind of things. No.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Some of the information is personal information, like one-on-ones. How
Mm.
do people ops and HR, how are they involved to help keep the data safe and confidential if that is the case?
Oh, you have to do this in advance before you start all of this, right? I mean, running the interviews is not a problem. Probably it's not. It's also not a problem to explain to the interviewees. See, if HR is okay with it, I would like to use the information for analysis with a large language model or with a frontier model. Um, so just in case if HR hasn't yet decided whether that's okay or not, you at least have the data, you know, that you're not losing time on this. But otherwise, you seriously have to assure that you have approval from HR to actually do this. And depending on where you are located, so if you are located in Europe, for example, this would be probably even a bit harder. So, in Germany, for example, you have the Workers' Council and larger organizations, and they have quite a lot of veto power, so you not only have to talk to HR and maybe the engineering managers, but you also have to talk to the Workers' Council. To get this right, and this is getting really tricky, right? But I mean, you're not always in a situation where you run out of cash, and then you have to go through a lengthy bureaucratic process to actually being allowed to use something. And as always, it's a question of yin and yang. If getting approval takes 3 weeks, and you may be faster doing it by hand, and it still works, right? Maybe not as elegantly as with a model, but it certainly still works.
Thanks. All right. One more here. Sometimes not everything is said. How does AI deal with nonverbal cues in our conversations and cultural nuances across multicultural and diverse teams?
Problem, yes.
Yes.
So non-verbal clues, that only works if you have video. And even that is not ensuring that, how shall I say, that the model is fully understanding what's going on here, right? So that would be a bit far-fetched. And if you then throw on top cultural diversity, then you are really, really challenged, right? So this is not a panacea, this is not your Leatherman for every kind of coaching challenge that you have. It is suitable and applicable in certain situations, as you may have noticed, so there's a quite long list, but then it makes a lot of sense. So for our little challenge that we have here, you can see it actually works, and I will share the link with you from the analysis here, so that you can have a look at what's happening here. But there might be other situations where this is not so easy, and where the analysis may support your coaching efforts, but not be directing them.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we are at our time. I hope everybody got a lot out of this. I sure did. And Stefan, thank you so much. Any quick parting words from you?
It's a lot of fun. It's a fantastic technology and worth exploring. Always keep in mind, it's a little. It takes little effort and has a potentially huge upside. So don't miss out on this.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And we will see you next time. And scrum on. Take care.
Bye.